you've done your situational evaluation, what are the, what are the immediate crisis stabilization interventions that you take? The immediate ones.
9 times out of 10, the biggest problem is to fix probably one of 3 things. One is to be able to make sure that the business has sufficient turnover. Call it sales, call it generation of income, whatever you want to call it. So money coming into the business.
The bottom line for any
bottom,
business is sales.
That's it. Getting money into the business. So that's the one. The second one is to make sure that the money that's coming into the business is coming in profitably, so that you're not giving stuff away. So that if you make something for R1, it's not costing you R2 to make it. And that generally is not understood to a large percentage of businesses. People will chase business with companies and they think, well, if I go to a big corporate and I give them 100 of something, I'm making big money. But they don't realize that if it's costing you 99 cents to sell it to them and you're only making 1 cent, rather just stop that and make only 1 and sell it for 10 cents. It's much more beneficial to you as a business. So what they call a margin is critical. You need to have a look at what your margin is, because you could be working yourself to death for absolutely nothing. So you need to look at what that margin is. And then the last one is, what are your overheads in your business? You need to be clear that you're not carrying unnecessary stuff. A lot of companies will go along and they'll say, well, I need a big premises. I need to have X amount of electricity. I need to have a secretary. I need to have this. I need to have that. And actually, you don't need it. So you need to have a look at what those issues are and you clean those out of the business. And family businesses are the biggest culprits. I need to have my sister working. I need to have my brother working. I need to have my uncle working. And sometimes you don't. So you need to have a look at that. So those are the 3 that I normally look at as being critical. And once I've got those looked at, then I can say, okay, once I've cleaned that up and the business can then survive, then I know I've achieved 80% of what I need to achieve.
That is that is a simple 3. I'm saying simple, but it isn't as simple as it sounds, is it?
Absolutely. We have lost you.
No, can you hear me?
I can hear you now again. You're back again.
No, I'm saying that it sounds a little bit, it sounds as if it's simple. It's 3 simple things. 1, sales, right?
Absolutely.
2, cost of sales.
Absolutely.
3, margin.
Your margin and your overhead.
Cost of sales and then overheads.
Correct.
Okay. So with those 3, you are definitely certain that you have some visibility of where the business is headed.
Correct. There are very few businesses that can afford to continue operating with not making a profit. And I mean, one of them is, for example, a software company where you say that for 5 years, I'm not going to make a profit because I need to put in X amount of development money to get to a point where the software will then start making money. That's fine. There's no problem with that. But generally, there are very few and far between those businesses. So a business needs to get to a point where it makes money at a very quick point. And most businesses, 6 to 8 months, it needs to be there. If it's not there, its shareholders won't keep putting money in it. Well, it can't work for charity.
Yeah. So when you've tackled those 3 areas in the business, those 3 areas may call for a restabilization of the business.
Yes.
It may call for a restabilization of a business. That could come down to the point where you have to maybe retrench some people. That could come down to a point where you may want to cut off non-core assets, of the business, and things like that. One of the things that helps you to say, or gets you to that place to say, okay, we are now at that place where we can now start restabilizing this business to move it to the next level?
For me, the issue is a very simple one. As soon as, and I call it, as soon as you stop bleeding. As soon as I'm at a point where the company doesn't need to have funds put into it. So it doesn't need somebody to go and take money out of their pocket and put it into the business on a regular basis. Then you've got time to then start looking at where do you take this business to. Because remember that a business needs money twice in its life. It needs money when it's not making money, and it needs money when it wants to grow to the next level. Because you need money to be able to take a business from stage 1 to stage 2. It doesn't just automatically go from stage 1 to stage 2. Mm-hmm. And when a business is losing money, you also need money. So you need to be able to understand those two concepts. And often you might need to get rid of assets to move to stage.
Before you get to the getting rid of assets, talk me through those two places where a business needs money. Where does a business need money?
Well, a business, first of all, needs money when it's losing money. So when you're not making money. So let's take, for example, you're a startup business, and you've got this brilliant idea, and you're now getting going. So now you don't have enough sales.
Yes.
You're a new business, but you have certain expectations and costs. You have to rent a building, you have to rent a vehicle, you have a couple of staff, and you now say, okay, for 6 months, I'm not going to make money. I know I'm not going to make money, and I need to put money into this business. So you get together as a family, you put money into this business, you say, for 6 months, I'm not going to make money. And you run this business. After 6 months, you've got enough sales, you're now generating enough, and now it doesn't need any more money. So now you run this business, and it goes on, and it starts to pay you back the money that you put into this business. That's the one. The second one is that the business now picks up a problem. It loses a customer. And all of a sudden, you're back to where you were before, and you don't have enough sales. Now you've got to try and find a new customer. That's when you've got to put some more money into the business. Or stage 3 is where you're now a nice little business, but you now want to grow to the next level. You need to make it a slightly bigger business because you've now got 2 children into the family. Now, to get it to the next level, you may have to go and approach a customer who says, yes, I'll take 50 extra of these items. But in order to be able to make that extra 50 items, you've got to go and buy ingredients to make those 50 items. So you've got to have money to buy those 50 ingredients. Or the customer might say to you, listen, I will pay you only at the end of the month. You've got to have money to be able to keep that customer's stock for him till the end of that month. That's when it's going to require money. So it's not just a simple question of, okay, well, all of a sudden I can now make that extra 50. You've got to have money to be able to go to that extra 50.
Yeah.
And that's the 2 elements of you have in the business.
Okay. And then you were now talking about getting rid of non-core assets, or getting to a place where you retrench.
Yes. Look, again, it comes back to this ethical question for me. I'm a firm believer that you never keep things that you don't need. There's a place for hoarders. There's a place for people who like collecting antiques, and that's fine. That's fine. You keep your antiques, it's fine. But when you're a business person, don't keep antiques.
Not
antiques
in
don't
business.
Make you.
Not in business.
Antiques don't make you money. So you only keep what you need that makes you money. When it doesn't make you money, sell it. So if you have 5 vehicles and you only need 3, sell those 2. This idea of, but I need them. I need those 2 just in case there's a breakdown. No, you don't need them. Get rid of them. When you have a breakdown, you fix it or you sell it and you buy another one. That's the way business works. You don't keep things in case. That's not the way business works, because you know what happens is that thing stays there and it ends up costing you a small fortune. That's the one issue. The second issue is with people. You don't have people sitting around in your business simply because you like them. People must actually contribute to your business. That doesn't mean that you just get rid of people. I have a very soft heart for people, and I believe that in society today, we're very quick to just get rid of people. I believe that what we as businessmen, we have a social responsibility to make sure that if we get to a point where we have to retrench people, we have failed those people. Not they have failed us. We have failed them because we haven't taken the necessary responsibilities to make sure that our business got to the point where we had to retrench them. So retrenchment for me is always the absolute last option. And I always believe that if you can, you must have some sort of empowerment program in place. That if you have to retrench, you need to find a way to empower those people somehow. Either make them subcontractors to your business or have them as a subdivision of something. But if they leave your business, just simply provide them with a retrenchment package and say goodbye. I think you failed those people. You need to find a way for those people to continue contributing to your business, but in an economic way.
So that takes us to the point where they say, are you going to consider the heart count or the head count?
Exactly. You have to consider the heart count. If somebody is not contributing to your business and that particular contribution is not contributing a bottom line to your business, unfortunately, that person cannot be sustained in your business unless you are a charity.
but yeah, so then you start saying now head count, because this is not a contributing factor. This individual does not contribute to the business. But anyone who contributes to a business, even in a business where they are struggling financially, struggling to make sales, struggling to stabilize, struggling to transition, there is a responsibility to the hearts that are sitting, that are within the business, right?
Absolutely. I've seen so many companies fail. There's the age old philosophy. If you've got gangrene in your leg, is it better to chop the leg off or to let it eat your whole body? Sad. It's sad, but it's a reality.
Yeah. You speak about gangrene, and I have an anecdote in my book where a friend of mine had gangrene on the finger, and he called me from the hospital asking me what should he do. And my response was very obvious. What do you prefer? That by next week it's the arm that's going, or the finger should go now so that the arm should be saved? So that analogy, it's very, very apt. So the when you've gotten to this place of stabilization, of what is the place for product or service improvement? What place do you attribute to product or service improvement? I guess that's where you would make your money, or an interventionist would make their money at that level, I would imagine.
Yes, look, I'm a firm believer that if you're an interventionist, you must bring something to the party. And what do you bring to the party? You bring your skill set. So that means that you're bringing what you know that can improve the business. So what are you improving? You're either improving sales, you're improving margin, or you're improving the methodology with which the business operates. And that's where your skill set comes from. So whatever you're coming into the business, you must leave that business a better business. You must leave what you've learned. So, every one of us through our life journey, we learn things that somebody else has mentored us or taught us. And I believe we have a responsibility to leave that knowledge with other people. I think that the worst thing that we can do is to hoard that knowledge, because you're going to go to your grave, and so what? Now you've not passed that knowledge on. I think you're just being spiteful.
So which means apart from your skill set and every other aspect that you bring to the business, a key component of what you bring is the product improvement or service improvement, transformation of the existing product, or enhancing the existing product to make it more appealing to the marketplace, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the most fundamental thing for me personally is the pride of actually having been involved in a business which then becomes either slightly more successful or extremely more successful than what it was. Because that for me is a personal achievement, which is worth fundamentally a lot more than what any funds would be worth.
So basically, coming into a business and having this picture, and upon exit, it has a more bright, a gloomy picture at the end, at your entry point, and at your exit, it has a brighter future.
Very much, very much.
So, looking at our present our discussion at the moment, where is the place for financial restructuring?
You know, in this country, and I think it's probably up to most parts of the world, is that people sitting with money are reluctant to release funds unless it has a significant return to themselves. And I understand that concept. So people who think that they're simply going to go and acquire funds from a bank or from a private entrepreneur or from an equity investor, whatever, it doesn't happen simplistically, and it comes with a tremendous amount of strings, and it comes with quite a tremendous sacrifice to the exercise, like, for example, offering shares out and that type of thing. And I'm a firm believer that if one can avoid going that route, one must try and avoid going that route, and one must try and build your capacity from within your own resources. Ultimately, it's not positive.
So you are saying internally generated revenues, internally generated finances it's always the best way to go.
Absolutely, and it focuses you and it sharpens your mindset, because what happens is that when it's your money, you stay focused. When it's somebody else's money, you tend to be a little bit more relaxed. You tend to be a little bit more lazy in the exercise, and you're not as let's call it as focused as what you should be. Easy money, easy go, you know. And unfortunately, I'm a firm believer that if you work for something, you deserve it. If it's somebody else's money, you don't always work that hard for it.
And you are talking about this, and I'm thinking, okay, where is the place of the banks?
Hey, can you hold on just for a second for me? I just need to open a door for somebody.
No problem, no problem.
Just hold on a second. Sorry, I'm back.
Perfect. So I was asking, where is the place of the banks in the business intervention, business turnaround process? The relationships with a bank or with banks that can really contribute to your efforts.
I don't think the banks have a place at all in business rescue, at all, full stop, because A, they're too conservative, and B, their bureaucratic structure doesn't allow them the flexibility to be involved in business rescue. Where banks can be an asset is in business intervention for the growth of a business. So in order to fund capital growth, and in order to fund working capital for a business that is reasonably successful, yes, they are a reasonable, efficient cost structure. But for a business that has any, let's call it, questionable business practice or questionable numbers, no, the bank is not a place to go to. They don't have the understanding, and the bureaucracy is just far too difficult for a business to get involved in.
So then what of a business when you get into this intervention, into this interventionist mode, right? And you get into a business, and this business already has creditors that are banks. What you are telling me there is that it makes it 10 times more difficult to help the business get out of that space, because they are already in a difficult place with the banks, and the present bureaucratic structures of banks does not allow the flexibility for that business to actually look at a new day.
Absolutely. You know, the banks sit with massive infrastructure, and they sit with massive legal departments. So they make sure that any lendings that they do are so secure and so tight that at any hint of any difficulty in a business, they are able to call on their monies immediately. And they've got it so secured that they literally can cripple a business instantaneously. And they are one of the single biggest hindrances of business turnarounds, and provide one of the single biggest, let's call it, fire starters to liquidation in this country. Because, you know, companies that have overdraft facilities, most of those overdraft facilities are secured via personal sureties by the directors or the shareholders. Any unsecured overdrafts are normally secured via debtors, via assets, and so forth. So as soon as the bank picks up any hint, they will immediately liquidate their assets and get their money, because they know that they don't need to trade at any risk. It's better for them to get their money and just say, well, c'est la vie, and not have to worry.
Interesting. So then, for the business, you know, the shareholders of a business, where do they now go for money if in this intervention journey cash is required? Where do they go to? They are in a tight spot. The banks are not their friends. The banks actually want to bury them. You know, they are almost dead, but the banks want to bury them as quickly as possible to get their money out. The community is probably looking at the business and saying, everyone around them says, these guys, we smell a rat here. It's not going to work, right? Where does the business person go and get the resources? Where does a business get the funding that they require at that phase, at that place, you know, of their business life?
You're going to laugh at me, but my experience has been is that
I start laughing before you even say it.
My experience has been that the single biggest funder of turnarounds is actually creditors. Because if you sit down with the creditors and you actually talk to them, you have a rolling cash flow coming into the business, and as long as creditors understand what it is you're trying to achieve, you will often find that creditors will, with clear understanding, extend your creditor facility, which will help you get yourself out of trouble. As long as it's not exorbitant, creditors will actually understand. The second opportunity is staff. Staff will actually come to the party. You know, staff will actually take an extension on benefits over a period, provided that they understand where it is and understand how to secure it. And remember that little things in the Act will allow you to create what is called post-commencement funding, which is once a business goes into formal business rescue, any money that's put in after that is first to come out. It comes out before anybody else's money. So, for example, if staff work full work and only get half pay, the other half of the money is considered to be post-commencement funding. So that money they're entitled to get out if the business succeeds before anybody else gets money, before any payment to the government, before anybody else is entitled to get money. So there are ways of being able to use funds that are there, which you wouldn't normally think about, without actually having to go and borrow at an exorbitant cost. And then obviously your next line is family money, and then your last line is equity. But equity is expensive.
Yeah. But when we start going to equity, that is actually dangerous territory, isn't it? Because that's
Very
where the
much
sharks coming, isn't it?
so. Precisely.
Because they are coming and seeing, I very few people will be coming into an equity and looking at the business that is struggling and would not want to kick the dog when the dog is down.
Exactly. And remember, when you need to raise money urgently, that's exactly when people take advantage of you.
Hmm. So that actually gives me an indication that once you start seeing a red flag, you need to bring a third party in before you get to a place where it becomes even difficult for the interventionist to pull some strings and even help you get out of where you are.
Very much so. And what quite often happens is people look at their business and their business is in trouble. So they go along to somebody and they'll say to a guy, well, lend us R1,000,000. And they will sign away everything. They'll sign away their debtors. They'll sign away their assets, which might be worth 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And they now only get R1,000,000. And
Mm-hmm.
typically equity partners are very guilty of this exercise. So now in 6 months' time, they need another million, but they can't get another million now because they've signed away all their asset base for R1,000,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that equity partner won't lend them more money because they now know that they've got 10 million rands worth of assets for only having lent out R1,000,000. And they're happy. They won't give you anymore.
Interesting, because that now puts the company that is in trouble in much more trouble than they even started from. How do they solve that? How do you solve that problem where even while you are down, you don't sell yourself short? How does a business do that? What are the things that a business can do to make sure they don't sell themselves short even when they are down?
This is where it's critical that you have a management team that understands business ethics, and where you have a management team that are prepared to actually stand up for what is right. If you have people that panic and people that get themselves into trouble and they're prepared to take anything that comes, that's when you get into trouble. You have to have people that keep a level head. And that's where it's critical that you have mentors and coaches that help you keep a level head. It's not always easy. It's not always easy because sometimes you just want to get out of trouble. And sometimes you have to be in trouble for a little while to appreciate getting out of trouble.
Okay, that makes sense. There's a book that I read a few years ago, written by a professor at Regent University in the US, Professor Bill Winston. The book is called "Be a Leader for God's Sake," and he makes direct allusion to what you are talking about. A leadership that doesn't panic in the face of adversity. A leadership that faces adversity, sometimes stays in the fire while looking for ways to exit the fire.
Yeah, that's what
So
it's all about.
so what you are saying to me is that in that desperate, in that dire state of your business, you need a leadership that is a leadership that does not panic. A
Absolutely.
leadership that looks at where we want to get to, what we need to do to get to where we need to get to, and all of that.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And that's why in a family you have a matriarch. And that's what's critical in your business. You need to have a matriarch. Whoever your matriarch is, you need to have a matriarch.
Absolutely. Okay. Then, looking at this digital era, the transformation in businesses, and especially given the climate that we face, what is the place for for digitization of business. I was talking about the Bacchus Brothers business that went into rescue and now liquidated. And I think a whole host of businesses that actually probably require a complete transformation, a complete makeover, um, maybe even moving it completely into the digital space. What what is your feeling as an interventionist moving into a business that is completely manual? And after your evaluations and all of that, you say, okay, once we stabilize this business, we need to take it out of this manual phase to kind of help maybe reduce the cost, expand the market base, and things like that. What is your feeling about it?
Look, I think the age of doing business in the way Opa used to do it, or the way Methuselah used to do it, are gone. I think we have so much available to us today in terms of technology that you would be naive not to use that technology. And I think the amount of information that technology gives you, and the edge that that technology gives you in terms of being able to anticipate what's coming, and the kind of options that it gives you is just so astronomical that you are going to be left behind. You are certainly going to lose traction if you don't use it. And I think that as a business leader today, if you are not keeping yourself informed and you're not keeping yourself up to date with the latest in technologies, and you're not keeping yourself in the forefront, and not at least arming yourself with those bits of information. I mean, I take something simple like social media. If you're not aware that social media can build your business and destroy your business in seconds, then I'm sorry, you are going to become arcade.
That's just it. That it can build and it can destroy your business in seconds.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because in 1 second, a little click of a button, and social media can take your business to a level that, or a dimension that you never even anticipated. And
Precisely.
in that same second, by some flimsy statement, by some flimsy reaction or whatever, it can actually drive your business to the ground in a split second.
You know, the sad part about Mbez is that in the 17, 18, and 1900s, we could quite easily deny, or we could quite easily go out to the media and put our viewpoint to good use. Today, with the movement of social media, by the time you actually react to something, it's too late, it's gone. So you cannot be in a position where you try and answer something that's come negatively against you or positively against you. You need to be in a position where you need to be able to simply just move on to the next stage and batter down whatever is going to come at you. And that's how you need to manage your business. And you need to understand that for every hiding you get, you're going to have to be positive for the next 3. That's the way you've got to work business.
Okay. I think the one, we're getting almost to the end of our discussion, and I'm as we're talking about technology and all of that. What is the place for thinking the zero marginal cost space in every business? Because almost everything is being cannibalized today. A few years ago, we depended on listening to the radio, watching TV. Something would happen. We depended on buying the newspaper and actually reading what the news was. But today, a newspaper comes out in New York and it's online, and today, right this second, it comes out and I have access to it. And there's no need for the guy in New York to go out on the street and get his newspaper anymore. In Johannesburg, we have seen how our media houses are struggling, especially those that were print. And now everything has moved digital. And people get the news like this. The same news that we used to read on the newspaper, we're getting it in less than no time, and that is happening in different businesses. Some years ago, every day you needed to do anything with the bank, you needed to go into the bank. Today, the banks are closing branches. I saw recently, I don't know whether it was Standard Bank or ABSA, they were, the number of branches they were planning to close this year was actually shocking, meaning that that infrastructure is no longer relevant to the next phase of their business. Well, what is the place for that kind of thinking within an interventionist operation?
Look, I think, my biggest fear that I have is that any interventionist needs to understand that with all the information that's available and that is starting to generate miles and mounds and mounds and mounds of information, you need to be able to keep a logical understanding as to what is genuine and what is not genuine. And you need to develop your own filter system that says to you what can you actually consider to be practical and usable and what is not. And if you're able to achieve that, then I think that all media that comes to you is going to be of significant good use. If you're not able to, well, then you're going to drown. And I think that's the challenge for us as business people and interventionists, is to be able to work through all this information, that you make sure you get what I would term honest, good information, because there's so much coming through, and a lot of it is corrupted information. If you can shift through what is not corrupted, then I think you've achieved what you need to do. That's the challenge.
So, if you had a room of businesses that are struggling today, what would be, because what would you say to them, which that will be significant for them when they leave the room? Because we know that where we are in our own economy now, right? I'm not a prophet of doom, but we anticipate a bloodbath for the next few months. Lots of companies are going to disappear. Some household names are going to disappear. As for small businesses, the battle is even going to be twice as hard as it's always been. What would you say to them that will be significant for them when they leave the room?
Two things. One is make sure you know what you're doing and don't lie to yourself.
Come again, I missed that.
I think two things. Make sure you know what you're doing and don't lie to yourself. So don't let yourself believe things that are actually not happening. Make sure that you've got the facts in front of you. Make sure you've got the facts and operate your business on the facts. So, if people tell you things out there are difficult, go and check for yourself. Make sure that they are difficult. And whatever you're doing, make sure that you don't panic about it. Do the right thing. Simple as that.
Okay. Okay.
Not easy. That's what you need to do. Don't go and listen to what other people are doing. Go and check your facts and do the right thing.
But yeah, looking in the mirror and seeing what's staring you in the face is not as easy as we say it, is it?
Not at all. Sometimes it can be very ugly.
The ugly side of the mirror is what is staring you.
Exactly.
And if anyone can get to that place where they are able to x-ray what is staring them through the mirror, then they can start making adjustments, they can start making interventions or bringing in interventionists, coaches, mentors, and all of that, to help them navigate these dangerous waters.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I'll ask you this as almost our last question. Is it not? Does it get to a point in your work or in the work that we do that after we have gone and done, the situational analysis and all of that, that we just tell the guys, you know what, just pack your bags. There's nothing we can do here. This thing is dead.
I think there are the odd occasions where that does happen, and I find that unfortunately often it happens where the team lacks integrity. I find that that is the biggest driving factor, where that team has been dishonest in the
Mhm.
in the whole operation. Then I find that that's when I say, okay, guys, let's call it. But if the team has really been honest and integral, you will find a way through.
And honest and integral is not out of the business, it's within the business itself, right? Because you could have
Absolutely.
leaders within the business that are literally working against the business.
Yes, very much so. Very
you
much
know
so.
I know of a case where one of the shareholders and directors of the business um, did a shareholder loan into the business, right? And then literally was milking the business to the ground, you
Happens
know,
all the time. Man. Happens all
and
the time.
not even ready to consider what the next phase of the business should be, but only saying he needs to get his money out, and just kept milking the business until the
Exactly.
business was on its knees.
Precisely.
So that integrity is within the business and how the business trades out into the marketplace.
Precisely. That's integrity.
Okay, okay. So I would really like to thank you for taking off the time this morning. We tried it a few times, but the reason why I thought we should do this is because you are one of the skilled professionals who is in this environment, and the amount um, of interventions that are required out there with a completely different mindset is is it's just a lot. There's a lot of that which is required. I I've been looking at the rescue efforts that are taking place with our national airline, and and from a distance, without knowing much, without knowing much more than is in the public domain, I had a feeling that it could have been done completely differently. And I don't know what you're feeling as an interventionist is. I have a very, using all the information that's out in the public domain, I have a feeling that it could have been done differently.
I'll reserve my comment.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I was trying my luck.
It was nice. It was nice having to.
I was trying my luck. I wish you everything of the best. I will be in touch, and
Yes.
there is work that we have to do.
All the
A
best.
few of them already that we would be discussing offline. But thank
All
you
the
very
best.
much for
Thanks,
your
Ed.
for
Catch up.
your for your, for your, for your, for your time,
Okay.
and
Thanks.
for being open with us. And as small businesses, we always looking for straight answers.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, and I wish you
Thanks.
everything of the
Thanks.
best.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.